Isn't it? Not here, I hope. Right, okay. We have passed 7 o'clock, so we'll start the meeting. Okay, right, just to inform everyone, the members of the public are straight in front of me, the committee are around the two sides, and we have officers both sides of me at the moment, and I'm the chair of the committee. So welcome to Planning Committee on Wednesday, 1st of November, 2023. Right, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Khan, who is in hospital today. So, and we have substitutions. Councillor Iqbal for Councillor Gordon, Councillor Elwall for Councillor Coley, and Councillor Raza for Councillor Sahota. Thank you all for stepping up as well. Yes. You were on the original papers, but so as far as I'm concerned, you're not a substitute. So. Okay. Right. So urgent matters. To consider any urgent matters, I'm not aware of any urgent matters unless anyone can avail me of any. Nope. Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest? Nope. Right. Matters to be considered private, of which I have no knowledge at the moment. No. Minutes of the last meeting on the 19th of October. Have you read and do you agree with them? Thank you. Right, site visit attendance. I'll try and get this in the where we were. Right, myself, Councillor Martin, Councillor Mahmood, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Padda, Councillor Conti. Have I missed anyone? No. Right. Okay. Thank you. Apologies from others that didn't attend. So, right, tonight I'm going to change the order of the agenda. We're going to take Sherwood Close first because we have speakers and I think we have several people in the audience attending because of Sherwood Close. So we'll take that first tonight and then we'll go back to the order in front of us. So, okay. So on that, Joel, would you like to start the proceedings, please? We're just waiting for technology to catch up.
Good evening, members. Item number 2 on the agenda this evening is an application for full planning permission pertaining to phase 3 of the Dean Gardens Estate redevelopment. The originally consented redevelopment of the estate consisted of 3 phases, with all affordable housing to be part of phases 1 and 2, with phase 3 to be entirely private market sale. The proposal would increase the number of units within the development, with the majority of the uplift in the number of units being to provide additional affordable housing. The proposal would therefore deliver additional affordable housing within the estate in a phase when none was previously to be delivered. The previous consent also proposed phase 3 to have heights between 7 and 9 stories. The proposed development involves 3 separate cores as opposed to the original 4, with the proposed C1 building being separated from the proposed C2, C3 building. The separation of the development into two separate masses increases permeability into the site and breaks up the massing of the proposed development. The northern edge of Block 1 would retain a consented height of 9 stories at its corner, but accordingly rise to 14 stories as the building progresses south. Focusing the proposed additional height away from the boundary with residential properties to the north is an acceptable solution, reducing amenity impacts on neighbouring properties. The height differential provides more visual relief and architectural interest in the approved scheme, which consisted of an elongated block at a generally consistent height. Locating the height more away from the northern edge of the site also aids in offering a more sympathetic transition in the built form of the townscape along Northfield Avenue. It's also noted that the scheme also proposes staggered building lines to increase visual variation and articulation within its design. The facade of the proposed development follows a conventional grid-like pattern. However, visual interest is embedded in the architectural approach. This includes using different patterns of brick within the facade, incorporating projecting elements alternating with flat and level brickwork. The pattern of brickwork alternates consistently within each of the blocks. However, the two separate blocks contain different patterns of projecting and flat elements. Both blocks are connected architecturally through the use of red and grey purple tones. The darker tones of the metal balconies provide a successful contrast to the brickwork. Here's just some more images of the development. Site levels will be rationalized through the site to provide a gentle slope in the cross-block links, improving pedestrian accessibility between Northfield Avenue and phases 1 and 2 of the proposed of the existing development. On an estate-wide basis, phase 1, 2, and proposed 3 would deliver 62% affordable housing across the development. This scheme itself would deliver an additional 37 social rent homes, which is a particularly good outcome, given the consented scheme for phase 3 was to be all private market sale. As required by policy H8 of the London Plan, the scheme was subject to a viability tested route, with the conclusion of the independent assessor being that the scheme is delivering the maximum amount of affordable housing provision. The affordable housing would be located in Block C3, and there is a good mix of social rent typologies within the scheme. Landscaping and children's play space have been well considered, including the implementation of 2 cross-block links to Northfield Avenue. The cross-block link to the south would be a community growing garden. All open space and play areas will be accessible to all regardless of tenure. And this is an image of the proposed children's play space area. Members may note that the scheme was due to be considered at the Planning Committee in January 2023. However, the scheme was withdrawn from the committee in response to a statement from the GLA in late December requiring all buildings over 30 metres to accommodate a second staircase. This matter proved insurmountable for Block C1 to be resolved prior to that particular planning committee, resulting in its withdrawal. In addition, since this time, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities advised that a second staircase requirement would apply to buildings above 18 metres on the 24th of July this year. Therefore, Block C2 was also affected by such a change in fire safety regulations and was amended accordingly. The scheme has been revised to accommodate the second staircase, as you can see in these 2 images, in the orange buildings, for both Block C1 and C2, and that forms part of the consideration for this application. The officer recommendation for this application is to approve, subject to conditions, Section 106 agreement, and Stage 2 referral to the GLA. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, John.
Sorry, can I come back on one thing?
On your own one thing, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Just prior to the meeting, we did receive an additional objection from a resident of Tawny Close raising the issues of dust and noise and daylight. However, those matters are already addressed in the officer report.
Okay, bless you. Right, okay. We have an objector, Adita Kuti. Okay, do you want to come forward? And I don't know if someone can show you how to use the mic, or if they you have, right, okay. You have 3 minutes. We will remind you at 30 seconds out that you have 30 seconds to go. Okay, when you're ready.
Yeah, so hello, everyone. I am speaking on behalf of the residents. We gathered together only a day ago. Therefore, I'll just do my best to represent everyone's interest, what I heard within this day. So I guess the key concern is that the height of buildings should not be taller than existing buildings, which is maximum 8 stories in front of Tony House currently, and 5 stories in front of the Forest House, where I live myself, actually. So according to the Ealing Tall Building Strategy published in November 2022, a tall building in West Ealing is considered 7 stories. The proposal is double the size of a tall building in the area. Moreover, the proposal is 75% taller on one end and 50% taller on the other end of the existing buildings. Hence, it is oversized in relation to the scale of nearby buildings. The proposal transformed the scales of the whole area, as it would be the tallest building ever built in West Ealing, as far as I'm aware, during the research that I made within like 1 hour. Tallest building currently is 13 stories rather than 14. So therefore, it is overbearing, out of character, and dominate the existing buildings as well as historical allotments next to it. According to the Ealing Tall Building Strategy published in November 2022, Area D of Ealing, or Ealing Town Centre, could have 9 to 21 stories buildings. However, Area C, which is just next to the proposed redevelopment area, should not have buildings higher than 13 stories. And the current proposal is 14 stories. The proposal is in between of Area C with allowed maximum of 13 stories and a Northfield allotment, which is a historical and also a conservation area. The proposed buildings are east-southeast of the existing development, meaning existing residents will be permanently prevented from the current amount of daylight and green views that we currently have going towards the church and the allotments. Residents were repeatedly promised in words by sellers the area would not have buildings taller than existing buildings they're moving into. The proposal shall also integrate with and consider the heritage site of Northfield allotments. And I will not expand on this because I believe that this has been addressed in the proposal as I've seen just now. Finally, we just wanted to make sure that you are aware that a lot of residents, especially very local residents, feel that the decision has been rushed to this, and like the whole process has been rushed. Yeah. I think residents are aware and supportive of redevelopment of the area in general. The means to achieve it has not been fair to a community with predominantly elderly and vulnerable people, as longer residents and younger population haven't moved in only a few months ago. The process was rushed and existing residents were deprived of their right to work collaboratively to influence the unavoidable redevelopment of the plots. We only had 1 day. Most importantly, residents have been promised that the area would not have.
Thank you. The 3 minutes is up, unfortunately, and I will do the same to everyone else that comes here.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the applicant, we have Pascal French. Same 3 minutes. We'll let you know at 30 seconds out and we'll stop at 3 minutes. Okay.
Good evening, Chairman and Councillors. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Pascal French and I'm a Senior Development Manager at Latimer by Clarion Housing Group, which is the development arm of one of the UK's largest housing associations. And like typical private developers, all profits generated by Latimer are reinvested back into the housing association and delivering on its core objective, which is providing affordable housing to those failed by the market. The application being presented to you today is for the third and final phase of a successful estate regeneration project between the London Borough of Ealing and Clarion Housing Group. Clarion has worked closely with the council since 2014 and has already delivered 111 social rent homes, 60 shared ownership homes and 6 homes for returning leaseholders. Phase 3 has a historic planning permission from 2015 for a scheme of 142 private sale homes. Phase 3 is now proposing 185 new homes, including 37 social rent and 148 private sale homes, meaning 41% of the homes across the whole development will be delivered as social rent. The revised proposals have been designed to maximise the opportunity presented by this highly accessible and prominent brownfield site, improving the schemes considerably and increasing the number of homes by 43, 37 of which, 86% of the increase, will be social rent. We hope that you will approve our planning application this evening, which will enable the delivery of important social and environmental benefits, including an additional 37 high-quality social rent homes, all of which meet or exceed space standards, and which include 10 3-bed, 5-person family-sized properties. The scheme has also been designed to be tenure blind, with all 3 buildings benefiting from the same high-quality entrances, facade design, and amenity spaces. The other benefits include the generation of employment and training opportunities throughout the construction period, a significant increase in the number of trees on site, biodiversity net gain and urban greening factor, and also a significant reduction in carbon or CO2 emissions against Part L of building regulations through the use of low carbon heating and the incorporation of on-site renewable energy generation. At Latimer, we are equally passionate about high quality placemaking and design as we are about sustainability, and we are proud of the scheme presented to you today. Working closely with the London Borough of Ealing planning officers, we've developed a scheme that complies with new fire safety requirements and which is fully endorsed by both the Independent Design Review Panel and the GLA. The building forms enabled the creation of improved, publicly accessible amenity spaces and permeability, bettering the quality of life and well-being for all residents across the new estate and the wider community. These include a new pocket park, a new community garden space, and a new well-overlooked and safe level access route through to Northfield Avenue. The existing estate benefits from an engaged residents association who've taken part in planting days on phase 1 and 2, and we would continue this participation in the new scheme. Clarion is also a long-term investor of our communities, and we're incorporating a small management office into phase 3 in order that we can well maintain and manage the spaces on a long-term basis. In this time of unprecedented housing crises, our proposals would deliver much needed social rent and private homes in an appropriate, highly accessible brownfield location.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Was that the end?
Yes.
Wow, right. You must have timed that. Right, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, right, I'm opening up to, sorry, Joel, do you want to come back on any that's been said by the applicant or the objector?
Yeah, so height was referred to quite a bit, and the committee report does acknowledge the draft local plan and its considerations. Another significant consideration is policy D9C of the London plan. So the officer report does have a pretty significant impact, townscape visual impact assessment and heritage assessment contained within. And I picked up a final comment on the decision to bring the committee case to this evening being rushed. However, the application was submitted in July 2022. So that's quite significantly longer than the statutory timeframes.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to open it up to the committee for questions. Councillor Martin, start, and anyone else, keep their hands up, please.
Just clarification following what the applicant just said about the level of affordable housing across the whole of the development. Because I thought in the proposal it refers to the total for the whole development as 86% affordable housing. I misunderstood that. It's on hold on. So it's on page 101 of the whole report. Let's see, it might be page 9 of the separate one. So just to clarify, what is the total affordable housing for the whole of the Sherwood Close development? Have you got it?
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Kelly?
It's really the applicant mentioned something about it being a brownfield site. I didn't quite understand what he may have meant by that, given it's been residents in that site for the last 40 years.
Any further questions at this stage? Right, Joel, do you want to address those two, please?
Let's have a second.
Yep. Figure 4. Figure 4 is 101. Yeah. There.
I apologize. That should say 68% rather than 86. I apologize. Councillor Kelly, a brownfield site, it's effectively exactly what it means. It's been developed before and being reused. That's what a brownfield site effectively means, rather than a greenfield site, which would be something like the green belt.
Councillor Mahmood?
So just a clarification about the Thames Water recommendation for conditions.
What are you asking? Sorry.
What the conditions are.
What Thames Water's conditions are in the
They
report?
recommended Conditions.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, we've just reorganized conditions rather than by subject line into compliance, pre-commencement, preoccupation. So it took me a while. Condition 12 is a pre-commencement condition requiring a piling method statement to be submitted. That's effectively, so the works proposed underground do not affect any assets that might be existing underground.
That's a normal condition from Thames Water, really. Okay, Councillor Conti?
It was just sort of following on from the objector's comment that this was high, that the highest surrounding building in the area is 13 stories. So this is obviously higher than anything nearby. Is that correct? Is there anything in the vicinity, or I'm probably putting you on the spot, but is there anything in the vicinity that is close to this height?
I suppose it depends what vicinity you mean. If you're talking about near the station and proposed buildings, I'll let Joel.
Yeah. So the one that I can think of on the top of my head is the consented last phase of the Greenman Lane estate, which is 16 stories.
Alex, did you want to come in?
I was just going to say, committee have seen proposals going towards Ealing Broadway, so not too far away from this particular site, which have heights which are higher than 14 stories or even 13 stories. So just the fact that they may not exist at the moment doesn't mean that the committee hasn't already approved heights that are larger than those existing heights.
Okay. I don't see any more indications of questions from the committee. Right. I'm going to open it up to debate. Anyone want to contribute to the debate? Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, I am the ward councillor in this area, so I think I should just put that on the record. And this has been a long-standing project, really sort of improving the Sherwood Close estate and regenerating it hugely. I think this final bit, you know, I am conscious that it already has, you know, planning permission on it, and that this is actually sort of a relatively minor in the overall scheme of the estate, a relatively minor adjustment. You know, it is a shame that 14 stories is needed and that going upwards is necessary, but I can't really see any other option for them at the moment. And I do very much welcome the affordable housing that is included in it, including the new affordable housing with 10 3-bedroom units I noted in the report that I know from the housing waiting lists and the housing cases that I deal with, that this is something in chronic shortage right across the borough. So with that in mind, I think I am minded that this is something that I would vote in favour of.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Martin.
Just to add to that, I think the new design, I do like the gap that's been put in between the blocks, which will enable the estate behind to have more throughput and accessibility. So similarly, I think it's quite a good redesign of what was there, and the addition of more affordable housing is obviously really important to us as well. So I'm also mindful to support it.
I see no others. I want to contribute to the debate. I just like Councillor Martin. I do agree that the images on page 97 from the consented to the proposed scheme, I think the proposed scheme is a better looking scheme. And I draw your attention to the comments on the design review panel, which pretty much echo what you've just said, Councillor Martin, in terms of the scheme and the changes in massing, which for me, yeah, it makes, I know it goes up in height, but I think the actual design is far better. And I do not see anyone else contributing to the debate, so I'm going to go to the vote, actually. So all those in favour, please show. Okay, just that was unanimous, but I'm just going to double check because we've got it wrong before. So any of those against? Any abstentions? Right, therefore that application is passed. Thank you very much. We will now go back to your agenda order, which is number 1, which is the former Hamborough Tavern. That's you again, Joel, isn't it? If people wish to leave, they're quite, you can leave now. You don't have to wait for the end of the meeting. And I'll give you 2 minutes to leave. So if you wish to, you don't have to. I'm not kicking anyone out. Okay. John, take it away.
Item number 1 on your agenda this evening is an application for the demolition of existing buildings at Hamborough Tavern and construction of a building comprising part 5, part 17 stories. The reprovision of the public house is proposed at ground floor level, along with co-working space, gym and community space. The scheme would deliver 116 build-to-rent residential homes with associated amenity space areas. The existing buildings on site comprise the main public house building and a 3-story building in the southeastern corner. The site itself has negligible engagement with the street or adjacent canal and has no real architectural merit. To the south of the site on Bankside, the typical housing is 2-story terrace homes. The site is located at the edge of the borough and acts as a gateway site to the borough, acting as an entrance point along Uxbridge Road from the London Borough of Hillingdon. So those of you on the site visit would have seen these images. Build-to-rent schemes are different in nature to conventional residential homes, which are supported in principle by policy H11 of the London Plan. This is a type of housing product that will deliver housing for local residents, providing more secure and longer tenancies than the private rental sector. There will be less of the whim to market forces, particularly as rents are only able to be increased based on an established formula. Policy compliant affordable housing by habitable room would be delivered in the form of discount market rent. A good mix of housing options are to be provided, with the largest discount being at 65% of open market rent. And this constitutes 27 of the 35 affordable homes being delivered. 8 3-bedroom homes would also be provided within discount market rent set at London living rent levels. The existing consent, which remains valid, has an approved 50. Is this coming in and out? Or is it just me? No. Okay. Approved 15-story hotel scheme. Whilst the hotel consent was secured, there's been a lack of demand in finding a hotel operator to administer the hotel use. Okay. And that's made it an unviable market proposition. This has resulted in necessary changes to height, scale and massing of the approved scheme to deliver an alternative use of housing on the site. to account for additional requirements for increased floor to ceiling heights, minimum floor space sizes, and communal and private amenity provision. The ground floor uses would better engage with the street in comparison to the consented scheme. The public house will be re-provided on the site, as well as a new community use space that will be accessed from Bankside and available to all residents. Residents would also have access to a co-working space and gym within the development, providing additional amenity. The overall design scale, massing and height of the proposed development has been considered at length between council officers and the developer through the pre-application discussions. The scheme was also reviewed by council's design review panel and community review panel. The scheme would deliver an interesting facade design with the use of ceramic paneling made of glazed terracotta, playing a prominent role in the facade. The use of this material provides a reference point to the Martin brothers, who are prolific members of Southall's heritage and worked in pottery and ceramics. The colour of the scheme of both the main building and the shoulder elements reflect prominent tones that the Martin brothers used. The scheme also uses strong horizontal lines that are reflective of the prevailing built form, particularly mixed-use buildings along the Broadway. Thicker horizontal banding within the facade also aids in defining a base, a middle, and a crown to the building that gives the building visual interest. The building takes an elegant form through the vertical pattern of fenestration, providing coherency in its design. Curved edges and chamfering of external walls of the building provide an interesting feature also that reduce impacts on neighbouring properties. A full townscape visual impact assessment and heritage assessment has been carried out over the site, and has considered that visual impacts within short, medium, and long-range views would be acceptable. The GLA have noted within their stage one response that the built form of the proposed development does not represent a significant departure from the 15-storey hotel. The assessment also focused on the impacts that the proposal would have on heritage, which includes the nearby canal. This forms part of the canal side conservation area. It is considered when assessing development's impact on designated heritage assets that the proposal constitutes less than substantial harm in accordance with the MPPF tests, with the public benefits of the proposal significantly outweighing any harm caused. A full assessment on the impacts of nearby residents has been undertaken, particularly with respect to daylight, sunlight, overlooking, and overshadowing. With respect to daylight and sunlight, the development achieves a high level of compliance with BRE guidance, protecting the living conditions of neighbouring residents. Full compliance with impacts on rear gardens has been achieved. The design of the building particularly has the design of the building, particularly the chamfered edge, directs the eyes to non-habitable spaces on adjoining sites. And it uses vertical fins to prevent overlooking on balconies. As a majority of the residential properties are located to the south of the application site, the proposed development would have a minimal impact on overshadowing. The applicant also provided with a view city model, which enabled us to get down into the gardens and the rear of these properties on Bankside and Beresford Avenue to look at the impact on the visual impact that these properties would have. And these are shown on your screen also. Here are a selection of floor plans that the scheme would provide the two staircases in accordance with updated fire safety regulations. It must be noted this has required a redesign of the internal areas of the building through the course of the application, which reduced overall unit numbers by 2 and changed the housing mix. Overall, the proposal represents a high-quality scheme that would deliver positive design interventions into the public realm and would deliver a different form of housing product in a highly connected location. It is the officer recommendation that the application be approved, subject to conditions, legal agreement, and stage 2 referral to the GLA. I'll refer members also to the briefing note that has been circulated.
Is there anything in that briefing note you really want to highlight, Joel? Joel, not particularly. No. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. Throw it open for. We haven't got any speakers on this, so we're going straight to questions. Councillor Kelly. Anyone else indicating? Go ahead, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Joel, for your presentation. But that you said that public house sort of 3 times in the first 3 sentences, what it felt like it. And given it's probably one of the most depressed industries there is at the moment, just want to sort of know how meaningful it is in terms of the application. Do they have to, you know, if there's no public house operator come forward, essentially what happens?
Hold that thought. Councillor Padder.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question on the height of this. I'm not against the height, that's fine, but the concern is we have a directly opposite this tower, we have a TA center. Have they been consulted? They've been consulted, have they responded, and what was the response?
Okay, sorry, and Councillor Martin.
So mine was just a question about the cladding and the fact that it does look amazing, I think. It's a really lovely idea. What guarantees have we got that they won't try to substitute, you know, not such a good material when they start to build?
Okay, thank you. Joel, would you like to address those three, sorry?
Yes, Councillor Kelly, in respect to the public house, so there is a policy context to this in the London plan that public houses are sources, like locations for community gathering, and there's a desire effectively to retain these where possible. Now, the situation might be depressed at the moment. That's not always going to be the case, and we can't just plan for the particular moment. We need to plan long term. However, there are restrictions on the use of that space as a public house. Now, if they were to come back, the glazing that's provided on the Broadway would effectively provide potential for alternative uses such as retail in that particular location. Now, we would need to see some pretty robust marketing evidence over a long period of time to show that that would not be the case, that it can't be used as a public house. However, at this time, there's a policy context where we are to be re-providing that on site, and the applicant has proposed to do that. Councillor Padder, in respect to the height, so we did consult the Ministry of Defence on this application. The only response that they came back was they wanted a bird hazard management plan for the development. So there was no real if there was going to be concerns with the military facility next door, that would have been brought up at that stage. And I would also note there's an existing consent for a tall building on the site as well. And Councillor Martin, with respect to cladding, so there is an obvious risk of value engineering in all developments. In this case, this proposal was brought to us. It wasn't us requesting it of them. So it is a very, very interesting and well thought out design with that respect. And we do need to ensure that that is delivered. And there has been a lot of discussion over many months in respect to colours and things like that. So there is a real desire to deliver the scheme as it's been presented. However, there are conditions on materials, and we would need to sign off on any materials used, and we wouldn't sign off on anything that's poor quality.
Councillor Steed, you've indicated. Anyone else indicate before I bring you in? Sorry, anyone else? Okay, Councillor Steed.
Thank you, Chair. Am I right in thinking, or have I misunderstood? Is there a community asset separate from the public house? I thought there was, but perhaps you could just confirm that. And also, I'm just a little bit surprised that there's an additional amenity space on the 17th floor on the roof terrace. How's that? I mean, how's that managed? Is that from, you know, safety, health and safety aspects?
Okay, so health and safety on the upper amenity area, and wants to know confirmation that there is a separate amenity from the pub. Correct?
I can
Yes.
come in on. I was simply just going to come in on the community assets point, which is slightly separate. We have also double checked that there is no current listing of the pub as a community asset on the current list, which was updated in September. So it's you know, there is, as Joel has mentioned, protection in terms of planning policy, and which is why, as Joel has explained, there are the proposal is restrictive to the pub use to be retained on site. Does that answer your question? If you've got any other questions, then let me know.
So there is a separate community space that could be used by members of the community for meetings and things like that. It's approximately 58 square meters, and it's located on Bankside, and that's completely separate from the public house. On the roof terrace, I mean, that's quite a common form of use of the space of the roof. In those instances, most tall buildings, a lot of tall buildings do propose these. They're quite nice spaces. They're long range views of surrounding areas. So it provides a high degree of amenity. Now, in terms of security, that they would need to comply with building regulations with respect to the height of railings that surround that space.
Did that answer your questions, Councillor Steve? Right, Councillor Mahmood.
Just to quickly, John, we just wanted to know the contribution towards Canal and River Trust. How the money will be spent around to improve the tow path around there, or it will be covered all over the Southall.
So I think there's a contribution of 50,000 towards the Canal Rivers Trust. Now that's what they have requested to expand the scope of the Southall Wellbeing Way project, which is a sort of a combined program with Let's Go Southall as well. So it's up to them as to how they administer those funds, but those funds would be collected by us and delivered to them. There is an image within the committee report showing some public realm improvements surrounding the area. Now, it's not within the remit of the applicant to propose that, but they have an aspirational design for delivering that. And any of those sort of proposals would be delivered through a Highways 278 agreement. I guess because this is a long-term investment for the developer, they want their area to be nice and welcoming for residents. So it's in their interests to start looking at potential improvements to the canal and the footpaths in the area. So it will be. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Those are aspirational ideas for the area, but it will be up to the Canals and Rivers Trust and Highways as to how that is actually brought forward.
Okay, I see no more questions. Therefore, I'll go into debate. Anyone wish to start the debate? Councillor Conti.
Thank you. But I think there's obviously lots of, a number of positive things about this development in terms of the effort that's been made in terms of the cladding, the way that it looks, and the level of sort of affordable housing, etc., that is being provided. My only concern is really the scale of the building. It really is out of keeping with anything in the sort of immediate vicinity. I know that there are tall buildings as you go towards Southall Station, but that's not close to this development. I think even in the Southall Gasworks site, I don't think currently any application that has been granted so far is anywhere near the height of this. And it's next to conservation area. There's the canal nearby, and I understand obviously the Hyatt building, which is on the other side of the canal, is 13-storey, but it's quite distinct. When you cross over the canal into Hillingdon, it's much more of an industrial area there. There's the larger retail units, etc. So it does feel different. And I think when you drive into Southall, into the borough from that direction, and you look down the main road, it's low rise, and this will really change the shape of it. And I think that's my concern with this, which, despite all the positive things with it, makes me feel that I most likely will vote against the application.
Councillor Kelly.
My observations are identical to Councillor Conti's, but they don't concern me. They reinforce why this is a good application. I think the model along that part of Southall Broadway is tired of its time, but doesn't retain any sort of period heritage features from what I can see. The Hamborough Tavern, I guess, when it was rebuilt, was an attempt to modernise there as well, but I think a tall, well-cladded building, as we've said, will I think somebody else used the phrase, so I don't want to sort of plagiarise, but it's like a bookend and a gateway into the borough with a nice new building. So I would be minded to vote for this.
Councillor Padder.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kelly has already said that this is building, it's a gateway to London Borough of Ealing from the west. It is a nice building. It's very well designed, and I think it is a good building for Southall, or this part of Southall, as Councillor Kelly said. It's really a Southall Broadway is a very tired area now, so it needs some regeneration, and this is the beginning of it. So I'm minded to support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Padder. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really consider the height because it's already substantially approved on a previous application. So it's marginally bigger, but the tall building on that site has already been approved. The difference this time is it's going to be built to rent, and I think that's a really welcome change because obviously it provides us with additional properties that are going to be some of them affordable, but at least secure. The others will be much more secure than it is currently in the market. So I think overall, it's a welcome change. So I'm very mindful to support it.
Councillor Raza.
I was just going to say that I really appreciate a lot of thought and the design aspect of it, and how it's taken Southall's heritage into consideration in such a nice way, because quite often we have things that come along looking very Lego-y and very boxy, whereas clearly there's been a lot of thought and a lot of sort of consideration gone into the planning of this, and this looks like a really exciting and quite a beautiful building. I'm quite looking forward to seeing it come up. And as for Canal Side, sort of rented accommodation, I have some in my ward, and that is definitely an expanding area where I think we're going to get more people, more residents who are going to appreciate that. So I think this is actually quite a sensible, forward-thinking scheme, and I'm minded to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Raza. Councillor Mahmood.
Just to quickly, I echo what my other colleagues are saying. It's the first building if you are coming from West End, the whole area, and especially Bankside Road and Canal Side will be improved. Well-cladded building, and we welcome build to rent application, and I would be minded to support that application.
Thank Councillor Steed.
I have to say I have a slightly more cynical approach about the Martin Brothers cladding. But on the basis of the buy to rent offer that the application includes, I'd be inclined to support the application.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Right. Well, I'm less cynical than Councillor Steed. I'm quite happy about the material that is proposed, and yeah, and we wouldn't like that to change between now and it being built. So I think this committee has probably said enough on that tonight. There are other issues here, which is obviously the social housing, but also down to Bankside, coming down to 1 story was, I think, well thought out. I think the change is far better than the original scheme in this, and I do compliment the officers and the developer on getting to a better place. So I will be voting in favour of this tonight. So I do not see anyone else, so I'm going straight to the vote. Okay, all those in favour, please show. All those against? Any abstentions, just for the record? Okay, thank you very much. That application is passed tonight. Thank you very much. Now we'll skip over to the last application in front of us tonight, which is 13 to 15 The Green, Southall. We'll give people a second to depart. Oh. Really cool. Right, okay. John, I think we've settled down. Are you ready to start?
Just about.
Thank you. Item 3 is 13 to 15 The Green, Southall. This application is for a residential-led redevelopment of derelict commercial buildings just south of Southall railway station, as you can see from this slide. It's been to committee before. It was approved in July last year, subject to legal agreements and GLA referral. This revised scheme had to provide additional fire escape staircase and a new firefighting lift to meet fire safety requirements, and that led to some design alterations. However, the scale, design, and main components are very similar to those previously approved, and the number of flats, the mix of flat sizes, and affordable housing provision are unchanged. This is a small site in the Southall Opportunity area where there has been major development in recent years with permissions for large residential-led schemes and high buildings of up to 23 stories, such as the Arches, King's House, and the Margarita site. This slide shows the context with these other approved or existing high buildings beside it. So it fits into that cluster. The scheme would provide 95 flats in a Part 23, Part 19, and Part 14 story building with a flexible community amenity space at ground floor level. It's car-free with 180 cycle parking spaces. Almost 20% of the site would be a public realm area, and this would provide widened pavements, green planting areas with new trees, benches and integrated street lighting to improve the public area between the scheme and the raised highway. New landscaping is proposed on both the Green and Hawkers Road frontages, and the existing retaining wall to the Green would be kept to provide a buffer to traffic and associated noise. These slides show roughly the existing situation on the left and approximately what it would look like with the approved scheme and public realm improvements. It would make an important contribution to meeting local housing needs, and 35% of units, or 33 flats, would be affordable. Now, the proposed tenure split of 70% intermediate and 30% London affordable rent doesn't meet the council's preferred tenure mix. However, as before, an independent viability appraisal concluded that the scheme could not viably support more affordable housing or a different tenure mix. And I'd point out the affordable units and tenure mix are unchanged from the previously approved scheme. As before, all flats would exceed minimum size standards and all would be dual aspect. All would have adequate private balconies. Communal amenity spaces on the first and 14th floors would include children's play space. Given it's a small site, there would still be an overall shortage of amenity space, but this would be mitigated by a contribution towards improved provision in Southall Manor House grounds. There wouldn't be any significant impacts on the amenity of adjoining occupiers due to the orientation of the building and separation distances from nearby dwellings. The design itself has evolved through extensive negotiations with planning officers and the GLA. It comprises a main building of 22 stories above a basement level with attached side elements of 14 stories and 19 stories. And the planned form of the building would be a square rotated within a larger square. The main taller element would be set at a 45-degree angle to the Hortus Road street edge, with the lower side elements aligned to the street edges. And this allows the main elevations to be set back from the edges of the site and reduce the visual impact. The building would have a well-defined base, middle, and crown, differentiated by varying colors of brick, window sizes, and decorative metal panels. The varied heights of the side elements would create a stepped effect, visually reducing the overall massing. Different shades of brick would differentiate side elements from the main taller element. Various design revisions have been made to reflect GLA comments, and on balance, the scale of the buildings and the design approach are considered to be of good quality and to complement other developments in this area. Now, this is a tall building on a site not identified for tall buildings, not within a town centre. However, it does lie in the Southall Opportunity Area, which indicates potential for taller buildings, and a number of other tall buildings haven't actually been approved nearby. The height of the taller element, as this slide shows, would actually be similar to adjoining approved buildings on either side, the King's House and the nearby Archie site of Merrick Road. And this height is unchanged from the previously approved scheme. The scheme has been assessed against London Plan design criteria and the Ealing Housing design guidance and will largely accord with these. This reflects that the architectural quality is of a high standard, it wouldn't harm long views, and the height would not be out of keeping in the existing townscape of tall buildings. It would have a well-defined top, middle, and base, and active street frontage on both sides. The slide indicates roughly what the street level frontage would look like. The main design change from the approved scheme is an increased size of core area to accommodate an additional staircase and lift. And this results in changes to the northwest and southeast elevations of the taller block in the form of a slight bulge, as this slide shows, on both these elevations. On the Hortus Road elevation, the scale of the building would be reduced to transition to the existing two-story houses there. So on balance, while this is a high prominent building, it's considered to fit reasonably well into the townscape for part of Southwell, already containing other tall buildings, complementing these and providing a well-designed landmark feature beside the new railway station. With King's House and Merrick Place, it would mark the gateway into the opportunity area and improve the legibility of this part of Southall. This slide shows what it would look like coming from the north in the context of other approved schemes. This is a car-free development. Transport Services and TfL have both assessed its potential implications for the highway network and consider it acceptable, subject to review of existing CPZs, various transport infrastructure measures, and bus service improvements. And Section 106 contributions have been agreed for these. The site's highly accessible by public transport, and with a restriction on car parking permits and car club memberships for scheme residents, potential traffic impacts would be adequately mitigated. So overall, the scheme will provide a number of planning and regeneration benefits, including sizable increase in the housing stock, 33 affordable units, greatly improved public realm area, enhanced appearance of a prominent site beside the new Elizabeth Line station, and a gateway to Southall Town Centre, as well as provision of flexible community meeting space available to the local community, and in the order of £1.2 million in Section 106 and SIL contributions. These will go towards infrastructure, community facilities, and open space improvements in the area. These benefits are considered to outweigh the scheme's quite limited deficiencies, and the revisions don't change any of that. So it's recommended for approval subject to legal agreements and referral to the GLA. I would highlight one point in the briefing note that we had some late comments from the London Fire Brigade with some concerns on fire safety issues. However, the applicants have provided us with additional information, which has convinced us that the fire safety issues have been dealt with and are compliant with London Plan standards. I'd also point out that the Health and Safety Executive have already confirmed they're satisfied with fire safety arrangements for this tall building, and the scheme will be looked at again by the GLA when it's referred to them and under the building regulations as well. So overall, we're convinced that fire safety issues are adequately dealt with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Right, I'm going to throw it open to questions. I've got a question of my own, but I'm going to leave it until the end. Right, let's go this way this time. Councillor Martin, Councillor Mahmood, Monica.
So my question relates to that briefing note explanation of the fire safety issues, and I didn't understand it very well. So it seems to be saying that because there are 2 evacuation lifts, we aren't concerned about the sort of containment of the lobbies, I suppose, is what we're saying. So not quite sure how that works. And are we saying that all residents can get to either lobby? And that's why we think, well, only one of them's likely to be affected. And maybe if you've got something that shows us where the lifts are in relation to the floors might help.
She's got a plan.
Yeah, I couldn't see anything very clear on the.
We'll try and get that up. Hold on, John.
Yeah, go.
Well, can anyone else get that up? Can Jack get that up while you're listening to the next question? John, I'm going to take 2 more questions, if that's all right. Yeah. Right. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair. I understand you are addressing fire brigade issue, but on the top of that, it's unclear how the building will be served in terms of loading and unloading, and by giving looking at the road is very congested. So it's a bit unclear.
Oh, right. Okay, let's move on. Councillor Hamidi, sorry, apologies.
Thank you, Chair. The development is a car-free development, but with 95 flats, and I think there was only one on the street disabled parking bay. Is that adequate enough for 95 flats to have one disabled bay only?
John, I'm going to just take those, take you in there. There's more to come.
Right. Maybe I could try and deal with these in reverse order. In terms of the disabled parking, normally we would, I think the GLA asked for 3 spaces for 100 flats. But in this case, of course, it's a very small site. It wasn't possible to fit any car parking on it at all and still allow for servicing and amenity space. And so as a compromise, what the proposal is to convert one of the paid parking spaces on Hortus Road into one disabled space. And I think that's probably the best that can be done. I mean, potentially if there was more demand, they might be able to convert more. But that's the compromise we've come to. We have discussed it with our transport team, and they've suggested that there is quite high pressure for parking in Hortus Road, and we didn't really want to lose any more paid parking spaces there. So one space is initially what we're proposing right now is the best compromise we can make on it. On the
Is that a change from last?
yes, but this is something that's come up, and I don't think there was any actually agreed parking space before. We were planning to look at it to see if some arrangements could be made before, but there was nothing concrete agreed. But this time we actually have come to a concrete proposal to do that, and that's in the Section 106 agreement.
Although it's not great, it's an improvement, is what you're
It's
trying to say.
improvement, yeah. In terms of the point about servicing and loading, unloading, it is possible to do that within the site, as we've lost a parking bay on Harters Road to allow access into the site to allow our loading and servicing area within there at ground floor level. So that is dealt with, and that's considered adequate by our highway team. Coming on to the fire safety issue. I think the point was that there needs to be a safe corridor or dedicated lobby with ventilation, which is separate from the flats. And what the applicants have told us that, I don't know if you can see on the screen. So there is a dedicated lobby with ventilation here, and a corridor with ventilation. These are separated by a fire door, so no smoke can get through. So if there was a fire in this flat, the applicant could go through here into the safe lobby, which would have no smoke, and get the lifts there, and vice versa. And the applicants have given us diagrams to consider all potential scenarios, and it seems to work for all of them. So I think we're satisfied that it does meet the London Plan requirements. And as I said, HSE are already satisfied with it. It will be checked by the GLA again. And of course, it's all got to meet the building regulations as well for fire safety. So for all these reasons, we're satisfied that it is okay.
Part of the question was, where are the lifts in there, in that?
Yes. Yes, that's one lift. That's another lift.
And what about Green Line Day?
Yeah, well, that's one too. So there were two before, and now there's an extra one, I think.
Those two are EL means evacuation. Sorry. EL means evacuation lift. Is that correct, John?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Right. Following that, I think you indicated cut.
Thank you. It was just about the outside area in terms of, obviously you mentioned the concrete wall that's there, that's going to remain as part of the buffer. I noticed when we were there on Saturday, it's not a very pleasant place to stand between the sort of the concrete wall and where the building starts. I know obviously there's going to be some work and some additional lighting, CCTV. I just wonder whether any consideration was made to actually remove that. I know it's there to buffer the noise, but whether that could have been done with foliage or bushes or trees or something else to have made it a bit more sort of pleasant and potentially a bit safer in terms of walking down there, in terms of allowing more light, etc., into that area. It was just something that I thought about after we were there on Saturday.
When you say the wall, do you mean the retaining wall for the road, or do you mean
that concrete bit that goes round between?
If you can get the picture back up, sorry. I'll just get the picture back up.
Yeah,
it's gone to you. Then we'll just be sure which one you're talking about. It's the public realm one, John, I think. That one, hold it there.
whether that could be replaced with, yes, exactly, just because you're like in a ditch essentially, and I think that obviously blocks light that, you can't see out. I understand what you obviously mentioned about blocking traffic noise, etc. But whether could that not be replaced with bushes or trees or something else to have made it more?
That's a retaining wall for the road, isn't it? The road is on top of that.
Oh, the road's on top. Oh,
Yeah,
isn't
that's the road.
Oh, so that's at road level.
That's the road. There.
Oh, I thought the road was okay. But I'll take back that question. I thought the road was at a lower level, and that was in between.
What all you were talking about? Okay. Sorry, Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. A couple of questions I had have been asked, but one that remains a query is on the amenity space. I mean, I appreciate that this is a very, very small size, and the report does note that the urban greening factor is well below London plan and wouldn't usually be acceptable. Now, I was a little confused, I'll have to admit, around access to the sort of what's described as communal outdoor amenity space on the 1st and 14th floors, and just how residents would be accessing that. And there also seems to be on the plans on the ground floor, a communal flexible amenity space. And whether that was indeed the one from the 1st floor that's in the plans as marked on the ground floor, or whether that's something additional.
Come back on that, please. I'll bring you in, Councillor Meady, because not yet. John, come back on this because I've got a question on this as well.
The ground floor community amenity area, that hasn't changed from the last scheme. I think it may be mentioned in the committee report, and the applicants did try and involve community groups who might want to use it. They haven't been able to get any of that. So at the moment it's meant to be for the use of the residents of the flats and be managed as such. But if any community groups want to use it, that can be allowed for too. But nothing's changed from the previous scheme. It's still the same area as well. In terms of the amenity areas, I think they're accessed by the lifts. You just go up into the lift to that floor and get onto the lobby and access the terraces from there.
Thanks. And then if I could just follow up then, because on the 14th floor, it seems to indicate some kids play equipment, which it doesn't look like it's a huge space. And up on the 14th floor, I know that the wall's sort of 1.5 meters tall, but I was just wondering, I assume that HSE have fed back on that and whether that's adequate and just what the sort of the needs or equipment that's going up there is. Thinking of children playing on the 14th floor and, a relatively short wall with equipment on there and not a big space where they could sort of easily access it.
Right. Well, I mean, I understand the point, but I mean, quite a lot of the schemes we approve, the tall buildings do have amenity spaces at quite high levels. I mean, there's a very large number of schemes which have that and they seem to work okay. I think in this case on the 14th floor, we've actually got a condition on to make sure that a high balustrade is put up there, mainly to stop wind and make the space more usable, but that also would improve safety. We've had no indication that these aren't safe areas from all the schemes we've dealt with before. And as you say, it will be scrutinized by building regulations and the HSE. So as far as we know, it's safe enough.
Councillor Meady, you are lucky to come back.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a follow-on to the disabled parking space question. So there are spaces, I know there's one disabled bay on the green. I think it's outside 21 the green. And I think there's about 10 spaces free parking, 30 minutes free parking. Has it been considered to extend, maybe have 2 or 3 more disabled bays on the green instead of having it on Hortus Road?
I don't think, I did discuss this with our transport section. I think they actually suggested it needed to be quite close to the building. I think because of parking pressures, they felt this area generally couldn't really afford to lose any more parking bays, whether on Hortus Road or on the green. So that was the best compromise that we had come to on it.
Alex?
Sorry, I just wanted to come in on that point. I think it's a point that is worth us taking away if the committee were agreeable to a further discussion and feedback via the chair of planning committee and vice chair on any further discussions on that point, just as a point of clarification. And of course, you know, we would commit to do that before any before any final decision is made, if that's acceptable. But it's entirely up to you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, John, I have one final question, hopefully. Two questions. The public realm here, it's just struck me that is that all land part of the developer's land? And if not, how does we kind of maintain that land around there?
Right. The applicants confirmed to me that this is all the developer's land. The management company for the building would be responsible for maintaining it, and they would use the service charges for their flats to do that.
So they maintain the footpath and they maintain the lights there.
I'm not sure.
That looks like our lights to me.
Right. Let me just look at the.
Not this one nearest to me, but one further. Looks like one of Ealing's lampposts to me. I'm just worried that we are able to maintain it amicably going forward. That's all. Whether it's ours or theirs, I'm not that fussed. Yeah.
I would suggest that part of that image with the planters close to the buildings, they're within the application site, and the ones nearest to the retaining wall are outside the application site. And so obviously we would have to look at the maintenance arrangements.
I think we need to be to lock the maintenance arrangements into conditions or whatever.
Yeah, Chair.
Yes, sorry.
On page 165, is there any significance to the red line that's drawn around? Is that supposed to be the percentage? It's either 165 or 5 of 71. No.
As in Kirkledge. I'm not particularly worried who actually owns it. I'm more worried that if we don't miss it, it doesn't get missed.
Yeah, the red line, sorry, the red line's the application site boundary. Yes, there is, and the applicant is willing to maintain that.
And the second question, which is following on from Councillor Consi's question, although we can't knock that wall down, could we do something with that wall in terms of what it looks very nice on the picture, but it didn't look very nice on site. I just wondered, is there green walls or something that we thought about when we were looking at public space there?
Well, we did get comments from our landscape section on it. It wasn't something they raised. I suppose we could ask the applicant to look at that and maybe put a condition on.
Sorry, Chair. On page 37, top paragraph, it says works for the area outside of the applicant's control will be dealt with via section 278 agreement, which will pick up the lamppost if it does belong to us.
Sorry, just point that out. Whereabouts is that? Under public realm improvements, is that?
On page, sorry, I'm looking at the PDFs. It might be a different, just
37 of 71, is that?
Page 37, top of it.
Oh, yes. Okay, all right, I'll leave it to you. Okay, right, I see no more questions. Quite a few questions on this one, actually. Okay, I'm going to open it up for debate. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you very much. I wasn't going to talk about parking, but I don't think we should get too hung up on it. Given the strategies there for parking and blue badge users can park in parking bays anyway, so it's not like they don't have any parking. So that's just a point I'd like to raise. I mean, it's a good the application. I'm minded to grant it, but the whole thing seemed quite risible because of that elephantine building next door to it that clearly should be, if anyone was developing the site, they would include that. So I'm minded to grant this, but my prediction is we'll be here listening to a further application down the line that may include number 19, the green.
Don't let Councillor Kelly cloud your minds about future applications. We are only dealing what's in front of us tonight, just to make sure. I know you can have your say, but I'm just trying to make sure that the committee know that they are dealing with what's in front of them, nothing else, neither behind them nor in front of them. Tonight is what it counts. Okay, anyone else indicating? Councillor Mahmood.
All right. The two things I like about that application is, which if you remember the last planning meeting and when we were considering Honey Worcester, and I was worried about there was no local educational contribution, but in this application, good to see that is a very significant educational contribution, especially the Havelock School, Havelock Estate, which is one of the deprived school in the borough. So I welcome that contribution, and looking for affordable housing, I'm fully minded to support that application, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think, overall, I think this does regenerate an area. It is a returning application, so similar to the others we've seen tonight that has existing sort of planning with it. I think that this does improve the area well and provide much needed housing in the area, and so I'm minded to approve this.
Councillor Steed.
In the officer's report, there's an awful lot of usage of the word compromise, and I think for my conclusion is that there's too many compromises, and I will be voting against the application.
On the grounds of too many compromises?
Well,
I won't ask. Right. Okay, I think when I first saw this site, probably was the stark reality of the public realm improvement that makes this for me. We didn't really see it on Saturday because the hoarding didn't show how bad it was as it was back in, was it January? I can't remember when we went there before, but yeah, I mean, that's what sells it for me. And I know I was asking detailed questions, but by and large, I really like the public realm around it, and it doesn't feel as enclosed alleyway towards an underpass and sort of the antisocial behaviour that clearly went on there before. So hopefully this application will at least push or move or eliminate the antisocial behaviour around sites. And Councillor Kelly's point about the place next door, I think was mentioned in the last committee, and it may be mentioned again, but I'm going to take a vote on what's in front of you tonight, as I don't see anyone else indicating. Okay, all those in favour, please show. Okay, all those against? one against, and any abstentions? No, thank you very much. Date of next committee is the 13th of December. Thank you very much, everyone. That application was passed in case no one actually noticed, but yes. So thank you to the officers tonight. Thank you to the committee. And I'll be wishing you happy Christmas at the next one. I can't believe a Liberal voted against compromise.